Uh, okay, I'm going to poll the audience here. Show of hands. How many of us are really, really neat and tidy folk? Raise your hand. Really, really neat and tidy folk. I'm not raising my hand because I'm not that. Yeah. How many of us are clutter bugs? Same. Same. I don't want to be either. How many of us have ever lived with somebody that's the opposite of what you are? Yeah. I am reminded back to two stories. One story, so my sister and I growing up, we shared a room. And at some point in time, Sarah took a piece of masking tape, the roll, and rolled it down the middle of the room and said, Leslie, this is your side, this is my side. Don't let any of this come over here. And then I still tend to clutter. And Sam, my other half, has the gentlest way of reminding me that my clutter is spreading maybe a little too much. Because Sam will say, honey, you're nesting here. And your nest is growing, you're making an addition to the nest. And this external clutter it helps bring us to how many of us have internal clutter. I think even maybe some of the neat outward people might have some inner clutter. How many of us waver between the two? I can organize like crazy. I just can't maintain it. Yeah. And so this brings us to a spiritual level too, because we could be both of those things. And so I want to recap what we talked about last week, just so that if you're coming in the middle of this series, you kind of know what we're doing. So abundance. This is our abundance series where everything is going to open up and overflow. And abundance in the spiritual mindset are ideas in consciousness of omnipresent supply and support of the one mind that we call God. Invisible substance with infinite capacity of expression when held in mind, affirmed, and praised. So last week I touched on two kind of important concepts. One is abundance isn't only money, and it isn't only material things. It is those ideas that help us move and create the outer. And it takes action on our part, right? We've got to hold in mind, we've got to affirm, we have to praise. And so Charles Fillmore, who is one of the co-founders of Unity, shared this in the book of Prosperity. The things we see outwardly are the effects of what have arisen from causes that are invisible to us. There is an inner and an outer to everything. Both the mental and the material conditions pervade the universe. Everything is expressed how we orchestrate or don't our abundance. Because of our oneness, our actions allow us to interact with this on a personal level, but it also ripples out beyond us to a local community level, to a state level, to a world level. And when we are in the flow, when we are on it in this abundance, we have this energy that goes way beyond our own being, and we have the power to be the impetus for something great. We do. Little o, but not really so little o us. We have that power. And it is within practicing and knowing that God is source, and we are that circuit of that energy, of that divine movement. And then sometimes when we're not in the flow, things get a little wonky. Have you ever spent time with a crowd of complainers? And they're just fussing and fussing and fussing and fussing and letting it all out. And there's times for that. But if it really is a total drama mama session, when I leave things like that, my zeal gets squished. I get a little like, just not feeling it. And it was from that environment. So whatever we have, whatever we think or move, it goes out. And it affects the people around us because energy isn't just contained within our being. But then think about times when you spend time with your friends. Maybe someone you hadn't seen in a while, so you're catching up on all the stuff. But you're celebrating the milestones in each other's lives. You're having a good time. You're going on vacation together. You're doing whatever those things are, that when you leave that, you feel invigorated because that energy, too, ripples out beyond our own being. Therefore, we need to keep our channels free of debris. One of the things that fascinates me with how science has evolved is that there is a true connection between mind, heart, and gut. Did you know that bacteria in your gut can affect your mental processes? Did you know that your gut is where a lot of your hormones are made? I didn't know this until a couple of years ago. You can learn it more than faster than me. And so it's like when I look at the brain, I think of it as knowing lower caps. When I think of heart, I think of the word knowing in italics. And when I think of gut, I think of the word knowing, but with all caps. Because it is in your gut space is where your intuition is. That's where a lot of your deep connection is with the divine. It's that knowing, is this a right thing for me? And then if your stomach feels kind of probably ought not to do it. So therefore, our world reflects the outer, and so we need an unblocked route. We need for this flow to be free of muck in our outer and in our inner. So when we have that connection of all of them, it brings us to that being in the flow. Have you ever been in those moments where you're like, things are just going right? Like everything is like, I can't explain it, but everything is just falling into place. Serendipity happens, coincidences happen, but are they really coincidences? No. And then something happens sometimes, and we get a clog. Catherine Ponder, Unity founder and founder of this church right here, shares with us that we have to create a vacuum. We have to create this of the good stuff, right? But have you ever vacuumed at home and you're going over a spot and you've gone over it and you're like, there's still crumbs. So you go over it again and there's still crumbs. And you go over it again, you're like, because then you know that you have to check the bag or check the container. Then you have to check the hose, because in my house, about a year ago when we had 3 dogs in it, 2 years ago, there was enough of Duke hairballs in that thing. He was a chocolate lab. That clogged up the whole thing. Like when we cleaned it out, we're like, here's another puppy. And things like that for us, we get clogged of going to listen to the complaining corner. And it clogs up our energy for a little bit. And we might ponder this question. No pun intended on ponder. But could our experiences, could the clutter be connected to something that happened to us in the past? That we haven't worked through it, we haven't cleared it, or we haven't found a way to put it on pause, So like if you've been hurt by somebody and it's like a deep, deep hurt, and we always remember what happened, but there's the key of not letting it control our world. And so you just set it aside. So there's things that if you're brave enough to do some self-awareness work, and it takes bravery to do self-awareness work. You learn about things about yourself, you're like, oh man, I didn't know that, but it makes you a better person. But you can ask yourself, if you're willing, do I hold on to things because there was a time in my life when things were scarce? Is that my true reality now? Do I keep everything extra neat because I need control? As there was a time in my life when things felt out of control. Yeah, that's some good journal work right there. That'll sit me down for a good hot minute, right? There can be a clog in our prosperity even when the hoses are clean because there's hidden clutter. There's things that we don't foresee, that we forgot about, or we think, oh, I've moved through this. But then something will happen in somebody else's life or in our life that'll trigger that stuff again. And so then it's ours to reflect and go, oh, this is why I'm in the funk that I'm in. And so what do we do to get us to that point where we are cleansing so that we can overflow? Because I would much rather have goodness and joy and happiness and mercy, money, not like riches money, but comfortable, flowing in and through my vacuum. Because I think when those things flow, there's room for more. I don't think it's a hose that's fixed on just one size. So perhaps we can identify some of these things that might create this clog. So I think like when our mind is clogged, there's distraction. There is that self-doubt. There is overthinking. I have been I called it plancrastination. When you want to do something and you want it to be so perfectly ended that you spend all this time planning that it never gets implemented. It's plancrastination. Yes. And then in our heart space, if we have a clog in our heart space, we may have some hatred. We have some resentment, some anger, some fear. And really, I think when it all boils down to everything boils down to fear. That is like we get mad because we're afraid. We resent people because we're afraid. We get angry because we're afraid of what? Somebody else or some other circumstance or some other thing. So it all really roots down to that fear factor. And so that's a good, like if you're feeling those emotions in your heart space, like, I don't know why this dude just made me so mad. Or her, whoever pushed that button. To sit back and go, okay, how I felt was this, which may link back to fear, so what might I be afraid of? And then our gut space is that if things aren't right and things are clogged, you're going to get a nervous gut. That's that intuition part. Or you might get sedentary. You might be overly hungry. Why are we overly hungry? What's not being fed in you? Or we may lack appetite. We're like, I just don't feel like eating. And then that can relate to where it connects to your heart. Or is there a bit of depression going on? Or is there a depression going on that's making you ravenous? And then when there's a clog in demonstration, this is how it looks like outwardly. We see a lot of clutter. Not like your normal clutter, not like I'm functioning because I have 3 things on my side table by where I sit that I use regularly. That bugs the neat freak, but it's, a small amount of things. But if it starts overflowing, may want to look at it. What do we need to clean up? outwardly, inwardly. There may be disorder. There may be isolation where you pull yourself away from people. There might be an us versus them mentality. Oh, they do this that affects me. And doing that us versus them puts power in an alternate place that it should be, because there is only one presence and one power. That is God the good. So when we sink back into that, then we can work around the circumstances that might not feel as great, so that nothing dampens our joy. Because that's the thing. When there's an us versus them, and them is doing something that's making you feel not so good, don't let it steal your joy. There might be a tendency to dominate, to passively manipulate a situation. A good clog is, on the outward evidence, is war, whether it's family or worldly. Something is clogged. Something in the divine flow is clogged. And it may be that we abandon something. We may just take our toys, pack up, and go home, instead of having good conversations to bring about that growth and that peace and to unclog. And there might be dis-ease to a certain degree. And I say this to a certain degree because I do not believe that someone gets a major chronic illness because of something that they thought. I don't. But I do believe that we can get overstressed. We can get over anxious. We can allow things to clutter our world, that we don't do self-care, and therefore we catch the latest thing that's going around in the community petri dish of whatever bug, that disease. And so how do we clean up and clear out so that we can overflow? Because when we're in the flow and we remember what it feels like to be in the flow, we want to do that more and more and more. And we're willing to do the hard work to make it happen. And so some of those things can be that self-awareness work, that you really sit, and Unity has this joke of you're sitting and you're staring at your navel because you're inwardly focused. But this is really good questioning work on why you operate the way you operate. And does it align with your highest and best? We can heal trauma. We can practice some forgiveness work. We can tidy up the outer. I will admit, when my nest overflows and I start building an addition to my nest and I clean it up and I tidy it up, I feel better. I function better. But I also know that if I put things away, like for the longest time, if I would put my medicine away in a cabinet, I would forget to take it because I can't see it. And the way I'm wired, if I don't see it, it's not there. And so I have to allow a little bit of that in my world, to where it's okay, it's out, but it's right over here. I can see it, but it's not in the middle of everywhere. And we can give away. We can share. And I think that is one of the best ways to open up and overflow, is to be able to give away something that doesn't work for you anymore. You've outgrown it spiritually, emotionally, physically, however. You've changed your decor in your house, so you give it away. But man, somebody else is benefiting from that love, which is the next one, the love to be of service, to share of ourselves to make the world a better place. And that is so simple, because you don't need anything but you to walk down a street, sense somebody, because you could sense somebody's energy when they're not having their best day or they're not feeling it. You can sense it before it hits you. And that's when you can make some eye contact and smile and say good morning. good afternoon, because sometimes all that person needed was to be seen. Love is such an easy thing to share, and we should do it a lot. I want to be that puppy. That looks like so much fun. And this is when we share our affirmation. We'll say it 3 times, once because we're getting the words that are on the screen. Next time we're starting to feel it. And that by the 3rd time, we're really embracing that energy of these words. And maybe getting a little sprinkles from that puppy. I am a vacuum of abundance. I am in the flow. I am a vacuum of abundance. I am in the flow. I am a vacuum of abundance. I am in the flow. Because when we are in that flow and we know that we have cleaned up, cleared out, got rid of the muck,